Hello everybody, welcome back to the Vinyl Junkie Record Shop. My name is Mike and today is Valentine's Day, so I thought I would do a video with the Valentine's Day theme. And today I'm going to show 14, since February 14th, I'm going to show 14 albums from my vinyl collection that contain songs with the word or phrase heart in them, since the heart is commonly associated with today. And let's get started. As kind of a bonus, this one doesn't count. In the background, you can see, maybe hear a little bit, that's David Sanborn with his live album, Straight to the Heart, which is my favorite David Sanborn album and one of my favorite jazz records ever. So let's get started. It's kind of cheesy and pretty obvious, but I didn't feel like I couldn't really do this one without the band Heart and the album Magazine, which contains one of, if not my favorite Heart song, Heartless. So the front and the back leads this album off with a great song. Got a good beat, good funk, good melody. It's just a great song. Heart was a great band, is a great band, and Wilson still has a tremendous set of pipes. So there's number one. Most of these are going to be hard rock, mostly metal, because again, that's kind of what I do. But I do like a lot of diversity, and I wanted to kind of show some things that you might not see a lot of. So I picked this one, which is, again, this is one of my favorite records, and I finally picked this up. In the last couple years, I picked it up on vinyl. This is Clarence Clemons and the Red Bank Rockers. The album is Rescue. You should know Clarence Clemons as the sax man for Bruce Springsteen and the E Street Band for years and years. But this is just an amazing album of soul, rock and soul, blues kind of oriented stuff. This John Bowen, who delivered the vocals on this album, has a great voice. And the song is Kickstart My Heart, which leads off this album. It's a great song. And I always liked Clarence and his playing. It was a big influence on my playing when I played in high school and a little bit in college. But yeah, this is a really great record. Okay, and speaking of kickstarting my heart, I remember this album. I remember seeing this album when I was a little kid, maybe preteen, and who wouldn't have gotten excited over this? I never had this album. I saw this in a dollar bin not too long ago and picked it up. I always thought this looked hard rock because she just had a hard rock look to her. But this is Tanya Tucker with the album TNT. There's the back. And at the risk of being a little bit sexist, I gotta show that. I mean, come on, guys. Valentine's Day, there you go. Tanya Tucker really was maybe the penultimate sex symbol in country music at the time. But anyway, the song on this album is a cover of Heartbreak Hotel. And not to be outdone by Tanya, we need someone to represent rock and metal. And one of the leading ladies in that category, I think, would be Lita Ford. And this is her album, Dancing on the Edge. And the song is, I have to look at it, Fire in My Heart. Well, let's see if anyone else of note interesting on this album. Randy Castillo played drums on this album. I believe this was Lita's second solo album. Anyway, great album. One of my favorite songs on this album is Gotta Let Go. It's one of my favorite Lita songs. But yeah, this is a really good record, and figured it'd be a good way to show it. All right, ladies, if I have any ladies out there watching, you need a heartthrob in here too, and you're known to really like muscles. So this might have been the most muscular guy in rock and roll, maybe besides Thor. But this is Kane Roberts and his solo album, which is self-titled. And the song on here is A Strong Arm Needs a Stronger Heart. I'm sure he's got some strong arms. Look at that. You might recognize Kane as his stint in the Alice Cooper Band, and he recorded on Constrictor and drawing a total blank, the album after Constrictor, which is one of my favorites, and the name's not coming to me because I'm old, I forget things. But anyway, I always thought he was a pretty fascinating player, and he had that machine gun looking guitar, which was always really cool. So there we go, Kane Roberts. I think maybe the oldest album that I'm going to show, but certainly an album that's near and dear to me. This is an original pressing on Wooden Nickel Records of Stixx debut album. And the song is, well, I find it here. I know it's on here. Quick is the Beat of My Heart. Yeah. Not the most well-known album of the band as far as song-wise. You know, when Stixx first released this album on Wooden Nickel, they were pretty much mostly progressive, with you know, a little hard rock tinge. This album was, I think, a really good album. It has a fantastic movement for the common man, which is like a 13-minute track broke up into sections with Children of the Land, Street Collage, Fanfare for the Common Man, Mother Nature's Matinee. Best Thing is maybe the most well-known song on this album. But some straightforward hard rock guitar-oriented tunes that Stixx released in their first 4 albums on Wooden Nickel before they moved to A&M and released Equinox and started to really kind of find their footing in the 70s rock scene. But nonetheless, very happy to have this album. This one has eluded me for many years, and it was one of the only ones I needed to complete my Stixx collection. So we went from the oldest to the newest. I wanted to show something new, and figured I would go with Warbringer with Weapons of Tomorrow with the excellent Heart of Darkness, which leads off side 2 of this album. This is great new wave of traditional thrash metal. One of my favorite newer thrash bands out of the LA area. And if you're into thrash and you haven't explored some of the newer bands that are out there, and I definitely, Warbringer is really not that new anymore. I mean, they've been around for like 6 or 7 albums now. So they're kind of becoming some of the veterans of the new scene. But if you've not checked out Warbringer and you like thrash, you definitely got to check it out. Any of their albums are a good place to start. But this is the latest release, and it's fantastic. Okay. This one was, you know, probably a little more well-known. This band and this player really never made as big of a splash as I think maybe he should have, because he was extremely, extremely talented. It had a kind of a relatively big hit with this debut self-titled album, Vandenberg, with the song Burning Heart. There's the back there. And he released, I think, a series of maybe a trio of albums on Atco back in the day, and then kind of faded into the oblivion. But 2 years ago, there was another, I can't remember if it was another self-titled album or if it had a title. Anyway, it was a new Vandenberg release, has a re-recorded version of Burning Heart on it, and it was an excellent album. It was one of my favorite albums of the year. So check that out if you're wanting to catch up on some Vandenberg. Okay, one of my favorite bands. I just had a conversation with somebody on social media about artwork and how artwork doesn't get talked about a lot, at least on the Facebook platform. But this band always had some of the best album covers, and their logo banner is probably one of my favorites. If not, I mean, Iron Maiden's obviously up there, but this is a close second. Love this band. This is Molly Hatchet. The Deed Is Done, and you might recall the hit. One of the hit songs from this album was "Stone in Your Heart." You know, this is a good album. Nothing by Molly Hatchet is bad, but this album was kind of a step in the direction of more radio-friendly 80s AOR, probably at the insistence of Epic Records. But this one went more for had more keyboard prominence. And the Molly Hatchet was always known for its triple guitar attack, but I think this is the first album that John Galvin came aboard for, who's a very accomplished keyboard player. And, you know, the keyboard influence was pretty heavy on this album. The songs are good, especially, you know, Stone in Your Heart was a good song. And a good album, just not the most definitive of Molly Hatchet for sure. Okay, it's another great album cover. This was one of my favorite covers of albums for this band. This might be my one or two my favorite album cover for Triumph. This is the album Thunder 7, and the song is I should know this. Follow Your Heart, which was kind of a decent hit off this album. Not my favorite song on the album, but a really good song. There's the back of it. It's a great album cover. This band, Triumph, is one of the most underrated rock bands ever. I think this is a band that you could even discuss in a Rock and Roll Hall of Fame conversation. Just don't think they ever got the love and recognition and respect that they deserved. Again, an album with a relatively blemish-free discography, and you know, at least a couple of 10 out of 10 albums in there. This being one of them. This is a great album. So check out Triumph Thunder 7. Okay, we can go and keep continuing with the great album art. Another of the, you know, that sales-wise and popularity-wise, you'd probably have to put these guys in a tier 2 level, but they were definitely a tier 1 band. Another band that didn't quite reach the peak of success that they really should have. But this is Y&T. The album is Mean Street. Gotta love that album cover too. And the song is Straight Through the Heart. Y&T, really great band throughout the years. Dave Minichetti on vocals and lead guitar. This guy had a really unique sound to his voice, and I think maybe if there's only maybe one similarity to the way that he sounded, was maybe Sammy Hagar. I think kind of, you know, there's a little similarity between their voices. But great album. Check out Y&T with Mean Street. Okay, this one doesn't get shown a lot, but this is back in the day. This was one of my favorite metal albums. I really liked this album cover too. I think this is a different cover than what was on the European release, but this is a self-titled band by Heavy Pettin, and the song is Broken Heart, and there's the back cover. You know, really good hard rock. You know, immediate comparison would be kind of like early Def Leppard, and I don't mean Hysteria Def Leppard, more like High and Dry, that kind of sound. Lots of good guitar riffs, solos, just, you know, pretty much, you know, straightforward 80s metal, but a little more, you know, a little, you know, not glamish in any way, but not quite as heavy as, you know, say something like Malice, or you know, comparable to what I just showed in Y&T, you know, that kind of thing. But if you've never heard Heavy Pettin, try to find this album. I think it's available on Apple, most downloadable or most digital platforms. But there's some really good songs on here. In and Out of Love, the opener was really good. The Broken Heart, Love on the Run, Love Times Love. Yeah, I listened to this a lot when I was a teenager. Man, I'm getting really old. When did this come out? 1983. Wow, that's going back. 13 I would have been. Okay. Yeah, we can continue the trend with bands that I thought were great that didn't really break out huge, but connoisseurs of metal will be familiar with this band, Heaven, and this album, Where Angels Fear to Tread, I believe this was their second studio album, at least on a major label. But the song here is "She Stole My Heart," and it's the big hit. The big hit from this album was "Rock School." Rock School might have been one of the first metal songs that I remember to feature a saxophone in it, and I always thought that was really cool because they made it work on this. This is just a fantastic album. Lead off track, "Where Angels Fear to Tread," is great. This was who else? Let me see. Glenn Hughes provides some backing vocals on here. Lita Ford. Yeah, these guys rocked. I mean, there's the backside. I mean, you could maybe, they kind of had a look similar to Armored Saint. I don't think they were as heavy as Armored Saint. A little more melody in here, but yeah, you know, I think you could maybe compare them to something like that. Heaven, you could put them in the same category as Armored Saint, Malice, you know, things like that. And they're most probably notable for my favorite song that they did was "In the Beginning" off their first album, Heaven Bent. And if you've never checked that out, check it out. It's a homage to all rock that came before it. Great song, great band that never really broke out, but I've always really liked this album. And to finish up, we're gonna go with this band. I mentioned them in the last video I did, but I didn't show this particular album. But this album is certainly more appropriate for the theme of this video. Just got to look at the cover and you can tell. But this is Rough Cut's debut on Warner Brothers, their major label debut. And they go for the trifecta on this. We got 3 songs with a heart. We got "Piece of My Heart," which is a cover. "Cut Your Heart Out," and "You Keep Breaking My Heart." So we get a threefer on this one. Again, most notable for the vocals of Paul Shortino, who's probably the shirtless guy. There you go again, ladies. And yeah, I'm not real familiar with what any of these other guys did post Rough Cut. And again, kind of interesting, being on Warner Brothers, that was the first thing I noticed, you know, looked at that label down there, that I knew that Rough Cut was managed by Wendy Dio. So I have to go back and really study the connection that they had with Dio. Don't know if you know, someone in the Dio camp saw these guys and said, "Hey, they've got something to offer," or you know, could just be. I don't know if they were on Warner Brothers at the same time, or if Dio influenced them getting signed to Warner Brothers. I'm going to guess that would probably be the story there. But you know, this album, I'll have to put it on and spin it. But you know, this one didn't really make a real big impact on me back in the day. Not as much as the follow-up, Once You, which I really liked. So I think this is a band that maybe struggled with the sound identity. You know, they weren't super heavy, but they weren't, you know, they maybe were a little more akin to the softer side of the metal that was coming out of LA at the time, if that makes sense. Because you know really, if you go back and think about the birth of that LA metal scene, all those bands were heavy. I mean, they weren't glamish like the scene would kind of morph into, and all those bands were really delivering the goods. You know, Armored Saint, Motley Crue. I mean, come on, Too Fast for Love that was pretty heavy. You know, for back in the day, not Metallica heavy, but you know, for the hard rock that was kind of, you know, prominent at the time, you know, that sound was very aggressive. So, you know, you had that, and you had Armored Saint, and you had Black and Blue, and you had bands like Malice. So, you know, pretty representative of that time. Anyway, it was interesting to kind of go back to it. I thought this album cover popped into my head immediately for the theme of this video. And honestly, I didn't know until I was getting them out that I could get, 3 Heart songs from the album. So you can tell it must have been a theme. So, yeah. All right. So Rough Cut, check them out. And again, Paul Shortino would go on and fill in for Kevin Dubrow on, I believe, this Quiet Riot 3. No, Kevin was on 3. It was self-titled Quiet Riot. Would have been the 4th album. I could be wrong about that. If I am, correct me, because I like to learn these things. So okay, so that's it. That's 14 albums with songs or phrases that contain the word heart. Let me know what some of your favorite songs are that are Valentine's Day themed. You could go with love, love, sex, anything. Whole kinds of a world of opportunities out there to tie your collection into Valentine's Day. So let me know what some of your favorites are. Thanks for stopping by. Most of my stuff I show is metal. I like metal. I hope you like it too. And if you do, don't be afraid to let them know you're metal. Bang your head, throw the goat, and I'll catch you on the flip side.